speaking of NASA things observing things, how about that for a segue? NASA's telescopes. So yeah, that's really exciting. But speaking of things on planets and stuff like that, so NASA's SOFIA telescope, which is the telescope. This has made news all week. You guys all saw NASA was making a big announcement about the moon.
Yeah, we teased this up last week, but they hadn't released the results yet.
Then it's just water. So why is this a big deal? But let me tell you a little bit about it. So first off, they used the SOFIA telescope, which I think we talked about last week. Yeah, it's the 747, and Ben was like very confused. But yeah, they used the SOFIA telescope, and the cool thing that they found out is the breakthrough is that it was water in the sunlit regions of the moon, which was a first time observation. We knew there's water trapped in some of the shadowy areas and deep craters, like in Shackleton Crater. We knew, we've observed this as actually a pretty common phenomena. But now all of a sudden, which is crazy to me, that we went to the freaking moon 12 times, or 12 people, 6 times, walked around on the moon, and we hadn't made those observations. So if we're still discovering things in 2021 or 2020, 50 years later, Ben, what are you doing? Are you okay? Is it your neck pain?
I dropped some weight on my neck, so I'm a little...
It just looks like Ben's just like seeing ghosts up in his ceiling or something. Or
he's cats. Tripping balls.
all that acid I took,
Wow. But so the cool
water
thing
on the moon, man.
But so SOFIA detected water in the Clavius crater, one of the largest craters visible from Earth, located in the southern hemisphere. Previous observations of the moon's, I'm reading this straight from NASA's website, is moon surface detected some form of hydrogen, but they were unable to distinguish between water and its close relative hydroxyl, which is just OH, not H2O. Data from this location reveal water in concentration of 100 to 412 parts per million. So this is basically a 12-ounce bottle of water, like a can of soda, a 12-ounce can of water, trapped in a cubic meter of soil spread across the lunar surface. That's actually way more than I imagine. A cubic meter, so 3 foot by 3 foot, basically, right? Imagine a can of water in every one of those. Like that's actually. Then you look out on the moon, like that's a decent amount of water. I mean, it's not abundant because that's still 1% of how much water is actually in the soil in this freaking Sahara Desert. So it's not very much in general, but way more than I think any of us obviously thought there was.
Yeah, my takeaway was that like we assumed that there was water in the always in shade craters and stuff around the poles and stuff, but this makes it sound like it's just kind of everywhere in this different water form, basically.
And it still is water. It's just that I think we had never directly observed it. It's not the HO or OH. I mean, it is H2O, but it just was hard to observe for some reason, or we never had observed it in the spectrum, and now we are. And now this makes you wonder, like, and it probably isn't everywhere on the moon. It might just be, there might be pockets of it, say an asteroid hits that had water on it or ice water and, destroys, and there might be pockets. But this makes me wonder. I wonder if now Artemis, the very first Artemis mission, they aren't actually tied to the Shackleton Crater. The ones that are going to land on the moon, the first, so Artemis 2, actually Artemis 3, will be the first landing on the moon. They aren't tied to the Shackleton Crater. What if they changed it to like the Clavius Crater and actually went and observed water, or like took enough samples to observe water in the soil? That would be really cool. I mean, imagine that. That would be pretty game changing.
Yeah. I'm so curious about life, like the whole tardigrade or the water bears, as they're called. Like, have we actually found those on? Because I think it's just theorized that they can survive in space. So what if we found those on the moon as well? Then you could, because that was one of the theories about like how life on this planet was created, right? What not that it was actually created. It was like it came from outer space. Like an asteroid came and had tardigrades on it, and a few billion years later, here we are.
What if we find a little nugget of water and inside of it is a mosquito that once bit a moon dinosaur? Yes. And then we could turn
Jurassic Park 7.
Jurassic Park in space.
But what if it turns out that, like, in the same way that the Merlin engine like is just now seeing an issue that arose after the 10,000th firing or whatever. What if the odds that we landed, the 6 places that we landed humans on the moon, were like unusually absent of water? Like those were like the anomaly. All 6 places, like different latitudes throughout the moon, we just happen to land in places that are like kind of void of water. And then what if we find out like it's way more common to land in places where there's actually a decent sampling of water, you know, or 100 to 100 and 412 parts per million, you know?
They
or
weren't
somewhere in between.
necessarily looking for water when they went, were they? I mean, I'm sure they were just looking for everything, but they weren't specific.
They weren't, but they brought back samples, of course, so they would have been able to observe that, you know. Although what if it like literally was trapped in ice molecules, melted, and they just thought like, oh, that water was from our, you know, an issue of our instrumentation or like humidity in the air when we opened the, how do they avoid that?
Yeah. I think I'm kind of fascinated by the different forms that water can take, because like we have this very specific, you know, idea of what water is here on Earth at this particular temperature and air pressure and everything. But, you know, we have these like briny hydrites or whatever that are on Mars. And it's kind of like there's different types of water that can get locked into rock and you can pull it out of the rock. There's just like it presents itself in so many different ways that we just don't experience here on Earth, and kind of opening up our minds to the possibilities from other places. I think that's kind of...
Well, water has a real interesting quality in terms of what happens when it gets cold and hot, right? And the different atmospheric pressure. Like it has like on Mars, there's a triple point, right? Where it could be like a solid, a state,
and here
a solid, a liquid, and a gas in the same temperature or something like that because of the atmospheric pressure and all that. But like even, even how that stuff works here where now I don't live in a place like this, but Tim, you do, where water will freeze in the pipes and then it expands when it freezes and then it contracts. It's really bizarre, right? Like first it expands and then it contracts, which doesn't make sense at all to me because heat would expand, right? Because the molecules are actually running away, but somehow water does that same thing when it gets colder. And then it gets really cold, and then it does contract. It blows my mind. I'm like so confused by this whole thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah, water's an interesting one.
On this week's episode of Our Little Q's Future, the boys discuss water.
It makes up 80% of our bodies.
I like to swim in it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks, everybody.